Awesome.
Welcome to the Farm to School Book Club. And this
Yay.
week we are, it's the best hour of the week. We are talking about On Guerrilla Gardening by Richard Reynolds. And it's an awesome book. We're totally excited to share it with you guys. And I think we have a few discussion questions. Anna, do you want to share some of the questions?
I would love to. I'll kind of give like a little background on the book too. So Richard Reynolds started gardening in 2004. So this is what the cover looks like. It's really fun.
It's really
he created the book in response to kind of creating like a guideline for the history and like a how-to of guerrilla gardening and like all the different types, the methods, and the community that can be built within it. It's really cool. The whole book has beautiful pictures, so I highly suggest like checking it out. Like check out even these title pages, this bright colors.
That's pretty.
Like the hot spots of where guerrilla gardening is located, which is pretty cool.
That's interesting.
And it's not just like lit up; it's like flowers and all.
Maybe make that a coloring book, like with it all blank.
A phenomenal idea. He kind of goes through like, again, like the history and then why we guerrilla garden. So the first question I wanted to discuss was just a general, what is guerrilla gardening and how did it start?
Okay.
So guerrilla gardening is like by definition the illicit cultivation of someone else's land. So that is like rogue gardening, like hardcore, like that's the strict definition, and he's very strict on it in the book too. He talks about like the difference between asking someone to cultivate their land versus doing it legally, because guerrilla in this sense means little war. And so it started actually like back when the French invaded Spanish land, and the Spanish people went in and they made it so the French couldn't cultivate the crops, so that like led to them losing the war. So that's kind of
that's super fascinating.
It's cool.
And then it evolved into different forms across like all different countries, and now what it's looked at is a way to like fight for people's right for land and resources, because so many people don't have land, and this is a way that people can like take action in a nonviolent way. In the book, I think he said like it's such a good quote. Yeah, let's fight the filth with forks and flowers. So but just warms your heart a little bit. So that's like how guerrilla gardening got started, and this takes you through like, okay, what exactly is it? So he talks about how guerrilla gardening is an organic thing, not like organic in the sense of like farming organically, although like we all encourage that. But it just means it's like a living thing that evolves, and it's built out of an ecosystem or like a social climate. And so right now, I think it's really interesting to be reading guerrilla gardening during a pandemic, because it is a time where, you know, food is like a very valuable resource, and it's very sustainable for us as individuals. And so how do we, if you live in like an apartment or an area that doesn't have land, how do you take that power into your own hands and provide food for yourself as like an empowering thing?
Very cool. Yeah, the first time I learned about guerrilla gardening was when I saw the TED Talk with Ron Finley, which I totally suggest. You can just Google TED Talk Ron Finley. He calls himself a gangster gardener, but he turned the space in front of his house into a vegetable garden for everyone in the community. And then he got in this battle with the city of Los Angeles because they said that's not your land and you can't grow food on it. And his argument was, well, I water the grass like the, you know.
Yeah, he has to upkeep it.
He was like, I'm responsible for upkeeping it, so technically it is mine. And he won. And so he's kind of famous now. And he's kind of like one of the more well-known, I think, like people who guerrilla gardener, gangster garden.
He just got a master class. I got an email today that he has his own master class right now. So
very cool.
We'll have to watch that update.
Yeah, he started like a whole nonprofit with this movement to build other community gardens in places that are, I think the point is to take like land that isn't being used, and it's like, you know, we've all seen it in our community. It's like a space that, you know, used to be used for some reason, but now there's just nothing on it, and maybe there's weeds on it, and so why wouldn't it be better used like as a garden, which is a good thing for the planet.
For sure.
It's pretty cool. I've been super interested during this pandemic to read up on victory gardens during World War II. And I like, just because like my grandma talked about those and everything.
That's
and so,
cool.
Yeah, I've been really like, maybe we'll do another session on victory gardens to talk about the history of those, but it's super interesting. And I kind of see like some ties. Like I think there's, like with what you're saying, Anna, there's a little bit of, and that was encouraged by the US government back then. So
good old days.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then let's go on to a nice one. So this one's like pretty easy, but I think it's important to talk about like the meats of it. You know, what are some benefits of guerrilla gardening? For me, when I was reading this book, and just in general of like, you know, we garden all the time, and like seeing that is, it's like a form of communication, and it's a form of empowerment. Gardening and being outside and being connected with the land and with nature. And I think that that's like a really, really important benefit that we can all like gain from gardening in different areas, and it's community building too, you know?
Yeah. I think during this time too, I've had more people reach out to me about like my home gardening or what we do that they haven't gardened in years, and they do have a little more time where they're wanting to like take their lunch break and go outside. And we know how beneficial gardening is. We are very lucky and get to do that as part of our job, but a lot of people have lost touch with that. And I think that the guerrilla gardening movement are like people still pushing for how beneficial this is by having these rogue gardens in medians on freeways or whatnot, to kind of just like light that fire back into us, because our priorities get mixed up, and this is something that's good for our mental health and for our tables.
I think you guys are both right. I think like building a sense of community and taking ownership in your community and beautifying a space that is not beautiful. You know, some of our school gardens, even, I mean, we got permission to build them, of course, but they were all in locations that weren't being utilized at all on campus. And now they're full of life and activity, and they're these big, meaningful places for students to learn, and we're growing food, and we're just like, the potential is so huge. So I think it's just a really great, I think that's just definitely one of the benefits is, you know, taking the most out of a space that's not being used and turning it into a space that can be used by lots of people, and people having a sense of pride in their community too.
Yeah, bring some beauty back. I know this is kind of still on the same lines, but my family, when they moved to Colorado from California, one of the first things they said is like, wow, they don't have, like here, all of our on-ramps and off-ramps by the freeway have greenery, and like some states don't have that. And so whenever they come back, they're like, oh, I miss this. Like, look how pretty it is. And it's like the littlest things, but it's a hedge separating the freeways. But for us, like they don't have that, like in LA, even on a lot of the on-ramps. But in Ventura County, we're super lucky, and it is really pretty.
And in the book too, they talk about, and this was just like a good reminder of utilizing space that, you know, and I think a lot of our gardens are this like space that wasn't used, and touching on what you guys said, like it's just this open area that's too small to like develop,
right?
But it's little enough to make something, it's like big enough to make something meaningful, but too small to make something like large and develop it. So it's like a perfect spot for a garden. And using those little spaces and little nooks and crannies to beautify it will only like, it does like change the structure of the area that you're in, right? It creates like a more welcoming area. Like you said, Anna, like it feeds people into it. And it's like a lively area versus like a dead zone on a campus.
Absolutely.
And then my third question is, I said, if you were to select a spot in your community, where would you guerrilla garden?
That's a great question.
It was funny that I originally had written down like landscaping for schools, because I was thinking more of it on terms of like not where you would normally put foods you eat, like it's landscaping, still gardening, right? But it's not edible. So in my head, I was thinking like, oh, that'd be like, yeah, why aren't all the schools having their landscaping be edible gardens that then the kids can learn and eat from? But that requires permission, which is not guerrilla gardening. So that answer does not work.
I think, yeah, right. And so like with that too, I think something that's cool, like we don't want to obviously like promote illegal cultivation of land, but we as Farm to School can create our own like sense of guerrilla gardening and say like, if you're in an area and you notice like, hey, my neighbor has this little strip of land and I don't have anything, like go out and connect with them. Or like if you see a restaurant that has like just a grassy patch in front of them, ask if you can put in like 1 or 2 native plants. You know, they talk about the difference between, right, there's like all these different reasons for guerrilla gardening for beauty, for cultivation,
right.
for like pollution, noise pollution, things like that. So there's all these different areas that you can do it in. They actually here it is, yes, Germans have like 2 words for it. One is like Ziergarten and Nutzgarten, meaning ornamental gardens versus useful gardens. So like the useful is the one that you eat. So they like they take guerrilla gardening and then like subcategorize it even more. So finding a space that like just needs a little love and asking permission. I was told by a friend that if you write a letter to wherever that space is asking to garden and they don't respond, that you can go on there. But I did not find that validated on the internet. So
not on the internet. There's a place in Camarillo. I live in Camarillo, and it used to be a gas station, and then the gas station went out of business, and now it's just like this empty lot, and it's like right in the middle of town, and it's just been sitting there like undeveloped for probably like 10 years. So it kind of makes you sad. It's kind of by Toppers.
Yeah.
It makes you a little sad when you think like that should be something, you know? So, I mean, for me, like if I were to be crazy and guerrilla garden, I would probably guerrilla garden there. I want to share, I love, Anna, the story that you picked out from the book that you really liked about how there was one chapter about how it became like a political, like not political movement of support for LGBTQ people. So do you want to share, like, it was like they planted flowers?
Yes, it's called the Pansy Project.
Okay.
And so they planted, I think it was in London, all across London, pockets of pansy flowers as a way to bring awareness to LGBTQT slang and like different words that are used against it, and bring power to those words in response. So it's like, again, like
in a positive light,
means little war. So it's like this little way of rebelling against that and taking ownership of those words and like bringing beauty to it versus like letting it be a derogatory thing. So all across London, you see little patches of pansies. They started initially at places that had where, for example, like this, like a gay couple was walking and they got beat up and one person got murdered. And so that's where the original pansy plot went, in recognition of that. And then it just took hold like wildfire, and they spread it everywhere, which is really cool. Like, a demonstration of power and love through like new life and growth.
That beautiful.
Really cool.
I like that.
I mean, and that's the other cool part about this book is it's like riddled with stories about different guerrilla gardeners. Like, I'll show you this photo of this one. This guy made like a labyrinth of gardens in Los Angeles in this whole empty lot, and they beautified it and everyone was using it and the trees were grown. And then the city came in like 5 years after it's been like sustainable and developing and ripped it out. It was in, here, I'll just show you what it looked like. It's also, guerrilla gardeners give themselves names and numbers. So Purple 321 planted a Garden of Eden, 15,000 square foot creation behind, it was in New York City, sorry, not Santa Monica, in 1983. And then 2 years later, it was destroyed. But check this out. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that
is
amazing?
beautiful.
it's just gorgeous. And like in the book, you can kind of see the details. Like the trees were just like epic, and he created this gorgeous space. And if you see like the buildings near it, and like there's empty lots behind it and everything, like it doesn't look like a beautiful area at all. And then you just see that, and it's like, it's epic. And the man who built it, I would just like to point out, is probably in his 50s, 60s, and he's shoeless and has a rockin' hat. So he's like loving the gardening life too. You know,
Nice.
he's embracing it fully. Really
How fun.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to bring up, just because we did do this with our classes, was really cool. They talk about seed bombs. So finding like native plants in your area, and packing them in little balls of clay. And then you throw them in areas right before the rains, and it actually like allows little seeds to like nurture in this area and then bloom at the same time.
That's fun.
Excuse me, I got talking really fast and really excited. But we did that with Kelly Churchman's class, and it was really, really cool to like
how fun.
let the kids take native plants and learn about them. We planted native plants that day, and then they took seeds and got to take that out to their own communities.
That's really cool. What a fun project.
Really,
That's fun. And native plants, everybody could use more native plants.
Exactly.
We all know why. Well,
Yeah, they definitely need to make that book a coloring book, like just print the whole thing and not have it colored. And I bet people would buy it and still read it, and then they can color it themselves.
yeah, that's beautiful.
it's like riddled with beautiful
Pictures.
photos too. Yeah, it's a quick. It's like an easy read because it's written very well, like stories. I'm just showing you pages now.
Stories are so nice. It just makes it go so fast, I feel like.
Well, thank you guys for joining me in this week's book club.
Oh, yeah.
It's a beautiful day out today, and happy Earth Week, happy Earth Day. We're also doing a giveaway, right? A composter
Yes.
giveaway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about that for a sec?
Absolutely. So if you tag us with a photo of your garden or your food waste, I've been writing down names of everyone who's doing that
Awesome.
yesterday through Friday. So at the end of the week, we'll go ahead and draw a name, and then next week I'll deliver it to you in a very safe fashion. But get your own worm composter.
That's amazing.
So exciting. I know.
The staff wellness bingo is going off the chain. It's just like everyone is suddenly so healthy in Oxnard Union High School District and drinking tons of water and going on so many walks and meditating, and I love it. So
Keep it up, people. Keep it up. Keep moving. Get outside today. Get some sunscreen on and go outside.
Absolutely. And we miss everybody, and we'll hopefully see everybody soon.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.